I'd like to start this video by telling you a story about a little boy named Mont. Now, this isn't the Mont from War of the Visions. It's just another boy named Mont in the modern day. So Mont saved up $399 plus tax Canadian to buy a Nintendo Switch. And he was so excited on the day that he finally got to go to the store with his family to buy the Nintendo Switch. But then all of a sudden, on the way, he spotted a big sign that said games on sale, and he was intrigued. So Mont went over to this pop-up stand and he found that they had incredible deals available. He spent some of his $3.99 Canadian plus tax, and he bought 9 games. You see, the store was running a promotion where he earned rewards based on the more games that he bought. So anyway, Mont arrives at this big box retailer to go buy his Nintendo Switch, and he realized he spent half his money. So panic started to set in, and Mont desperately searched for a solution, and just then, a store employee approached him to ask what the problem was. "I don't have enough money for my Nintendo Switch, and everyone else is going to have one, and I won't," Mont cried. "Why aren't they on sale for half off? Then I could afford one." The worker replied, "I'm sorry, but unfortunately Nintendo Switches just aren't on sale right now." Mont frantically grasped at straws. "But there are balloons up in the store, and it says that this is the Summer Mega Deals Savings Festival. Shouldn't the item that I specifically want be on sale at the price that I want it to be?" "Come now, child, you know that's not princely behavior," Mont's mother, approaching him, said from behind. "We must be off. Stern didn't spend his savings and would like to buy a PlayStation 4. "Stern won't be buying any gaming console today," shouted the boy's father. "We must protect the Leonis bloodline, even if I will fall afoul of the gods to do it." "But Dad!" Stern exclaims. "That's enough, Stern," cautioned his mother. Stern stared at the ground and clenched his fist. One day, his father would pay. Thanks for indulging my story time there. The point of this story was to illustrate that I think there was a subsection of the players that were caught out spending their Visior a little too freely, and then they just expected too much to be handed to them, and they got a little bit entitled, and that was really frustrating for me to see as a reaction online. Now, I'm not going to lump all reactions to this global festival into one thing. I'm going to talk about a few things here, but that's important to mention that, at the end of the day, what you saved is what you have, and things were achievable with enough Visior. So lots of people have diligently saved for units in the past, and Duane and Fryevia were no exception. So even with the Zazan surprise, anybody that had been saving for this week would have been able to make out just fine. So as for whales, I do want to apologize. I think I was, kind of dismissive in another video. If you're somebody that maxes every single unit, then I do understand how this event, there was no easy financial path to maxing all 3 units in one go. Although if you had Duane and Fryevia at 99 as someone that maxes all the units would, then this wouldn't have been so bad because you would have a ton of Mog medals, and it's easier to go to EX than it is to max them from scratch. But at the end of the day, that's a playstyle that I just can't relate to, or that I find necessary to enjoy the game for myself. So I'm just expressing my opinion, and if you are a whale, then this isn't specifically targeted at you. I also wanted to address Dr. Dig's boycott video, and I think that his intentions are really good. He has the largest War of the Visions platform, and he can get a lot of information out to people, and he wanted to help the common player voice their concerns. He tried to include everybody from high-level guilds to low-level, whatever, and that was really cool. My fear is that the wrong message was being sent. The wrong impression was being made about the game and about its player base, and that message was being sent to new players, to just the player base in general, and to prospective players from outside of the game. I think that the video, the way that it was marketed with the thumbnail, with the votes on social media, the content in the video, I think that it was skewed towards the boycott side of the debate, and I think that it did incite some negative reaction reaction. And I wasn't pleased about that. But overall, I can't fault him for trying to protect the fan base or the player base, and to try to be a good role model in the community. That video rubbed me the wrong way, and I'm going to be honest about that. I also want to mention in this little preamble that people have different opinions and they have different tastes. So for example, I love fire units, but other people might like ice units. I was very excited to pull for Raldor, and many other players were inexplicably excited for Garvel. So at the end of the day, not everyone's going to agree with each other, and there's just nothing we can do about it. Like you can't do anything about it. So engage in discussion, but don't let anybody else dictate how you feel. Pick your battles, and at the end of the day, know when to agree to disagree. All right, so finally, I kind of want to, this is kind of a dick move, but I'm going on a road trip tomorrow. So you all know, if you watch my channel, that I respond to 99% of comments on my videos. So this is going to be a video where I might miss some comments, and I apologize for that. By the way, the comments that I don't respond to, that like 1%, they're either stupid, spam, or very hurtful, in which case I just, I go lock myself in my bedroom and cry under a pillow. All right, let's start out with my thoughts on Duane. So based on the JP schedule, we knew that Duane was going to come out at this time. So if we wanted to pull him from scratch, you would have to save up a lot of Visior. So banking on his cost being reduced, or that we would get some sort of deal that we don't know about in the shop, just based off of, there being a Christmas time deal, that was not a given. That was not something that you should have planned for if if a player really wanted to pull him. So at the end of the day, players either saved enough Visior for Duane or they did not. So if a player already had Duane, like myself, it was really easy to finish him. His 9-step gave really good value on his shards, and then an experienced player with lots of Mog medals could finish him off in the Mog shop. And I think that was the perfect way to spend your Mog medals, because you save a ton of Visior that you could then spend on other units or just save. And if you had enough Mog medals to save up for Duane, then that means that's all the more reason to spend them, because you had a bunch saved up, because you weren't spending them. So why not just use them on Duane when you can realize this item that you just keep on building up can be exchanged for something that's worth Visior? That's a really good deal. Even if it does increase, even if his Mind Spheres are more expensive than the Mog shop, my Mog medals were just sitting there, because for all of these other banners that we've had, it's been so easy to build up units with Visior. It hasn't been a huge deal using the Mog medals. Now, for a new player or somebody that didn't save up, Duane was not that accessible. And that's fine, I think. Gilgamesh wasn't accessible to most of us when the game came out. And okay, we did fine without him, but Duane's a little more impactful than Gilgamesh was in their respective times. But my point is that you don't need every single meta unit. So for example, I skipped or could not pull the following units during my time playing War of the Visions: Orlandu, Kilfey, Agrius, Wall, Halloween Little Leela, Super Stern, Kane, Yuna, and Helena. Now, I'm not trying to complain or brag about how good I am. I made a choice to either not pull for these units, like consciously made that choice, or I just wasn't able to get them. The only units I pulled for in that list were Agrius, Wall, and Helena. But each of these units impacted the meta in a very significant way, in my opinion. So not having them was difficult. There were times where I was frustrated I didn't have these units. There was times where it was just really hard to beat them. But there were also good times where I could beat the meta, and I had a lot of fun playing the game. But at the end of the day, all of those metas passed. Here I am. I'm doing well. So at the end of the day, I really think that you didn't get Duane now. The game's going to move on. He's not going to be here forever. He is a good unit, but other options are going to present themselves to you that will be able to beat Duane or compete with him. Or and even if he is around, because he has a lot of staying power, it doesn't mean that he's the only answer that you have to get him. If there was a unit like that, it's Helena. So that's the unit I hope that you got, because that's the one that I think is the most undisputed, just powerful unit that is going to stay and put in work. So that's just going to help us kind of temper our expectations that I hope we don't have to get every single unit. And again, I know there's people that want to do that, but I think it's not a healthy way to play the game. So if I can help anybody switch their perspective up or their mindset, then I think that's a good thing. For Fryevia, I just want to mention a few things. So first of all, we knew she was going to come with Duane because she's come with Duane before. So and this is like picking on like comments that I'm seeing. I'm not saying this was the overall expectation, but the people that are like, why is she here right now? We knew she was coming, okay? The other outcry that I've seen is people were like, well, her VC is going to come this second week. Why? Why would it come this week? That makes no sense. If we had an outcry about, people are furious about no bingo boards and there's no event medals and all this stuff, how do you think they would feel if Fryevia's VC came out this week and then all of a sudden it was a crazy VC and it just launched her into Helena territory or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like now you only have 1 week to pull the VC and Fryevia? People would be so choked about that and the time crunch that they'd be even madder. So I don't think there was any world where the VC was ever coming out during this time. And I think it was silly to think that it was going to come out at this time. And I'm sorry if that was your theory. It really did not make sense to me. And then while we're on this topic about the bingo boards, when you have a bingo board returning for wall, that doesn't mean that all these limited units are going to get bingo boards. The Final Fantasy 1 event might not ever come back. If it does, it's not going to come out for a super long time. So it was a super long event. It drew people into the game. They had a really good chance to get wall and to raise them up. But Fryevia and Duane and Zazan, they're going to come back time and time again. And we honestly can't expect them to have a bingo board every single time. Now, if Gumi wanted to do something for new players specifically, I would actually think that's kind of cool. If you started an account during the Global Festival, then there would be a beginner bingo board for units that you pulled or for like one unit that you pulled. I think that makes sense because I think that new players have a really hard time catching up. But for the rest of us, we can save, we can plan, especially with the foresight that is JP. So I don't think that we should expect a bingo board every single time these global units come back. So one of the other complaints that I saw was the 2-week time period. And okay, so for whales, again, I can't relate to them. That's probably pretty tight. But for everybody else, I'm going to say for the majority of players, we don't try to get every single unit, certainly not 3 units all at once. We pick and choose units that are good for our account, and we try to power up our accounts. So I picked Zazan, and I maxed him in 4 days. And yes, I'm on summer vacation, and yes, I went hard on Whimsy Shop farming, but if I could do that in 4 days, I can definitely do that in 2 weeks. It's a lot of time to max a unit. I really believe that it's a matter of Visior and not time. If you saved for Fryevia and or Duane, and you could max those units, you could also make a decision, this new Zazan looks good enough for me to go for. I'm going to not pull for Duane anymore. I'm not going to pull for Fryevia anymore. And that's actually a really good call. If you were going to go for Duane completely from scratch, it just makes way more sense to go for Zazan because he's very powerful and he's going to cost so much less. All of these units had pities, so it's not like you were just out in the weeds trying to get them. But of course, pitying more than one was really tricky. I just think that we're meant to get one of them if you're just going from scratch. And if you wanted to do more than that, then you either had to have saved up a lot, because again, we knew they were coming, or you have to spend. And that's where, again, the whole whale thing, it's tough to spend for these units, but I don't think that we need them all. That's my opinion. All right, so there's one point that I do want to concede, and that it was very strange for Zazan to be limited in the first place. And this is on the basis that he is the fan-voted character, and if enough people voted for him, it would be really cool for him to just freely be accessible in the game. But the actual mechanics of him being limited and what that means for pulling him, it doesn't really make a difference to me that he's limited, because if you're going to pull him after the banner on a whatever random pull, you're not building him up fast unless you're spending, and we have the medals, or we have select tickets. So yeah, spenders could build them up, but the average player, you're looking at a really, really long build time, and he's probably coming back before the end of that. So I'm actually curious if there's anybody out there that's pulled Helena or Mont after their banner, and then they're not spending on whatever deal, they're just trying to slow build them. Where are you at now? What's that progress looks like? Is that something that, because people are saying, well, I would have loved to do that with Zazan, and I get that. I just don't think it really makes an effective difference meta-wise, or that you could get this unit anytime soon. So It's kind of a weird one to argue or to debate. Another thing I'd like to get off my chest is this whole Zazan should have been given out for free thing. Why? Why would that ever have been something that we would have expected? People love to mention that the fan-voted Glaciella came out at the 1.5 anniversary in Japan, so Zazan shouldn't have come so soon. But then at the same time, everyone's saying, oh, why isn't he free? He's our unit. Glaciella wasn't free. They're the same in that they are a 100 cost unit with a small pull rate, and that they have regular price shards. So I think that would have been a more applicable thing to take from JP, is that this is what the unit looks like. But timing, I don't think that we can take timing as like a set in stone thing. It's a really good guide, but we've already seen countless examples of EX jobs being rushed up or even released first in global. So at the end of the day, if there's a deviation from Japan, I actually think that's kind of cool. And the reason is that it shakes up the meta. It means we can't predict it. It gives us something new, because I think a lot of people look at what's happening in the JP server and they say, okay, well, this is exactly how it's going to go and this is my plan. But having to be flexible is way more enjoyable for me personally. And if you don't like that, then that's on you. That's cool. That's totally fair. You had a plan, and if it didn't go that way, then that does feel bad. I can admit that. But I personally really like the flexibility of having these surprises thrown in global. So that's about it for my thoughts on the Global Festival. Now, if I missed any topics, I apologize. This is a long video to make, and it's hard to touch on every single thing. I hope I didn't make anybody feel, bad about any opinions they voiced. I've just tried to voice my own opinion. And at the end of the day, I do think that there was an overreaction. I think there was mob mentality. And I think that there was a section of the player base that was acting pretty freaking entitled. I think the game's been incredibly generous to us, and that up until this point, like, it's still been like pretty good. There's definitely things that I'd like to see change. I'll make some videos about that in the future. There's definitely, like a lack of PvE content, but at the same time, we've only gotten more PvE content. We've gotten the selection quests. We've gotten the 3-star espers. So it's not like they've been trending away, like they've been taking away PvE content. They are going in that direction. I'd like to see a focus on cost-limited content. I think that's going to be really cool. It's going to alleviate people's fears about a full 100 cost meta, or it's going to allow people to use their favorite characters more often because they can mix it up and get their MRs, or maybe their cost 80 and 70 URs, because we're going towards a cost 90, 100 base for units. So I think cost-limited content would be really cool. But at the end of the day, I think we've got a really good thing going on. I really do. I think this game has been awesome. And I look around at other games. I go and try other gacha games just because I'm not covering them on my channel. Doesn't mean I'm not playing them. And there's just so much other BS out there. It just makes me grateful for what we have. So sorry if that's not your feeling, but that's how I feel personally. So that's it. I was really nervous to make this video. So I hope that, we can have a good discussion about it, but I'll be on vacation anyway. So let me know what you think in the comments below. And when I do have a chance, I'll try to read through them, and respond to whatever I can. And otherwise, I'll see you all when I return.